Hey everybody, you're watching Cadroll Hunter, and I met up with a friend of mine, Sharron, who told me that she collected coins and had a bit of a collection. She wanted me to help her sort out to understand what she had, and today we're going to look at part of this and see what exactly you might find in the typical coin collection of somebody here in Canada. Hey everybody, this is James, and you're watching my channel, Cadroll Hunter. And a little while back, I met up with my friend Sharron, and we were having dinner. And in the course of dinner, it just came up that she was a coin collector, and I was a coin collector. Now, I've known Sharron for almost 10 years, and it had never come up. So, of course, in that conversation, we talked a lot about that. I mentioned that I had a YouTube channel, and she told me that she had a collection from a number of years ago. She had been picking out coins and banknotes, but hadn't really been actively collecting for a long time. Was asked me if I'd be interested in looking through it with her. So I think in today's video, we've got a bunch of coins. There's some mint coins, there's some albums and things like that, and we've got a whole envelope of banknotes. And these banknotes here I actually purchased from her. So she wasn't really sure what to do with them. She's not actively collecting right now, and she said her kids don't have any significant interest in coins or banknotes. So she kept a few to give the kids, and I bought the rest of these here. So I think we'll start here because there's all sorts of interesting, really nice and historical banknotes. Let's take a peek at what I got from Sharron here. So the first thing that I can see when I spread these out here is that we've got a range of different denominations. We've got 1s, 2s, 5s, we've got some 10s. I even see a 20 there. And these are ranging from a bunch of dates. It looks like we've got some perhaps from the 54 series all the way to the 80s. We've got some late 80s and even into the 90s and early 2000s. Some of them appear to be in pretty much uncirculated condition, and some are a little bit more circulated than others. What we want to do is see if there's anything in here that will actually fill a spot in my own collection that might upgrade a bill that I have. I don't have everything, and particularly maybe not in great condition for some of the issues. So I'm always looking to improve my collection. And anything that just really isn't worth a premium might just go back to the bank, or I might find other folks to trade with. But the things that I'm looking for, and you should look for too, is the signature combinations. Bills will usually have a year, a series year. This is the series of 1973. And you can see that right below where it says Ottawa. These bills were actually printed over many, many years, but sometimes the governor and deputy governor of the Bank of Canada changed. So you might find different signature combinations that let you know when the bill was roundabout printed. The other thing, of course, we're looking for is serial numbers. Are there any that are more rare, more valuable, or fancy serial numbers like radars? Radars read the same backwards and forwards, and those are interesting for collectors. So I'm going to sort these out by issue and denomination. We'll take a peek. Okay, well, here are all of the $1 bills all set out here. We've got all of the 1954 series here and all of the 1973. I'll talk a little bit about what we've got here. Obviously, we've got some that are a bit more circulated than others. We've got others that are completely uncirculated, which is fantastic for bills this old. In the 1954s, all of them are the modified series. So if you look at the portrait of Queen Elizabeth, they basically redid the hair to take out what appeared to be a demon or the devil. You could see in the hair it was what people thought was the face of the devil. It was actually nothing nefarious, as some people thought. It was really just a very faithful reproduction of the photograph or portrait of the Queen, actually photograph of the Queen, that was used to make this portrait and this engraving. And so there was a little bit of a public backlash to that. I'll put on screen what the devil's face portrait looked like. Those bills, particularly the $1 bills, are actually quite valuable. So we'll start here at the top, and we'll see that we've got some different signature combinations. This is a BD coin. Below that is a BD Razminski. Both of these bills here were printed by the Canadian Banknote Company. And on these early bills, you can see that right below the bill there at the bottom. Some bills were actually made by the British American Banknote Company. So we had two companies that were more or less simultaneously printing bills for the Bank of Canada. So lots of cool stuff here. Obviously, we've got some that are more circulated. We've got here a couple of sequential bills. So these are uncirculated bills. The G over F series ending in 24 and 25. So these two bills have been together for a long time, and some collectors will pay a premium for sequential bills. It's pretty solid evidence that they're uncirculated because they've been together since they were printed. So that's really great. We've got a few other bills here at the bottom. We've got A over F, we've got B over F. These ones are not sequential, but they're in more or less good condition. Good corners, really nice shape, nice crisp bills. Now, condition is important when you're trying to understand the value of a bill, but it's certainly not the only thing you want to consider. In fact, some bills are more rare than others, so you need a resource to tell you what that rarity is and how to find it. I always use my Charlton catalog of government paper money here when I'm looking at bills. If I flip over the page here, you'll see that this chart is going to tell me the signature combinations and the prefixes, their print runs, and their values. And you can see that there are some that are worth $1 in a particular grade, but others that are $12. So you want to know the difference. We'll look and see if we have anything here that is perhaps more rare or more valuable than anything else. The first one we want to look at is this T over M. Now, generally speaking, T over M is actually a fairly common bill, and we can see that in the catalog. So this is a British American banknote company. T over M to Z over M, they're fairly common. You know, they're not worth a lot more than face value, even in higher grades. But there is this T over M, no FPN. What that means is no faceplate number. So bills have all sorts of different little markings, but the faceplate number on this bill would be towards the left of the bill. They're so small, it would be right over here. I'm going to put this under the scope and we'll take a look. The first thing that you'll notice on here is that the green background of the bill actually has this design. When you're just looking at it, it just looks like it's green, but it's actually microprinting. Bank of Canada, $1, $1, Banque du Canada. Really, really cool. If I slide this note over, we're going to see in the bottom corner, there is the 9. That's the faceplate number right there. So this is not the valuable one or the more valuable one without the faceplate number, but you almost can't see that in hand, particularly because it's just a single digit. You can kind of make it out a little bit if you have really good eyes, but it's such a small difference. But some were made without the faceplate number, and those are ones that have a significantly more collectability, I suppose, because they're pretty scarce. A quick look through the guide tells me that none of these bills here have any sort of rarity in terms of the serial number. Of course, with respect to serial numbers, the other thing you want to do is look to see if there are fancy serial numbers. The most recognized, I think, fancy serial number is the radar. And that is when the serial number reads the same front to back. So that's one that you'll want to look out for sure. There are lots of other combinations of numbers that are interesting to collectors. So if you have solid digits like all ones or twos, if you have even just two different digits, say ones and twos in a serial number with no other numbers, that's something that collectors also look for. There are other combinations. There are ladders and broken ladders and probably reverse broken ladders and other combinations. For me, it's really radars that are interesting, probably solid digits, and low serial numbers are another thing. So if you had a bill that was 000011, number 11, that's another one that collectors are usually putting a premium on. So you'll want to take a look at your bills, even if they're common bills, even if they're in circulated condition, a fancy serial number could be worth something to another collector. Now, with respect to the 1973 bills, I've already looked and there isn't anything particularly rare in here, and many of these are in circulated condition. They're really just worth face value. There are some interesting ones here. Of course, we've got sequential bills 20, 21, 22 in the AK series, and we've got 30, 31, 32 in the ACH. So you'll note there's a transition here between a 2-digit prefix and a 3-digit prefix. These sets here, these two, are Lawson Bowie. These are some of the earlier in the 1973 series. Same thing with this one up here. Most of these ones here are Crow Bowie. And those ones are a little bit later. So they are 3-digit prefixes, and they occur certainly after the AFC. That's Lawson. All of these ones here were just printed later. So they say 73 on them, 1973, but these could have been printed even into the 80s, potentially, some of these bills. They all had the same series number on them, but they might have been printed in different years. So in the twos, just like in the $1 bills, all three of our 1954 series are the modified series, and they're all considered impaired one way or the other. Two of them have writing on them, and one has a big old stain right here. Although from a serial number perspective, we have one here that would be considered an almoster. This one here is 6626766. If that 7 had been a 2, it would have been a radar. 6626266 would have been the same backwards and forwards. Really cool. So in this condition, though, these bills are really just worth face value, so not really worth holding on to. Although some collectors, newer collectors, might not have these old bills, so I'm not necessarily going to take them just back to the bank. I'm hoping that they'll fill a spot in some other collector's collection. In the 1974 series, we have a whole bunch here, and interestingly, we have some from the same bunch of bills. We have ABR ending in 39, 42, and 46. That suggests that these bills here might have been, well, were certainly part of a group of bills that have been separated. So these ones got held on to. And I wonder, so my friend Sharron actually kept a handful of bills for her kids, sort of one of each, maybe in the best condition. And these ones are all pretty much uncirculated. So I wonder if she's taken and set aside some of the ones that broke up that series. It's really neither here nor there. These are nice bills, though, anyway, in uncirculated condition. Really, really great. Now, these ones here are really circulated, but we did get an interesting serial number. And you'll see this one is ARD 7772227. So this is known as a binary. The serial number is comprised of just two different numbers, 7s and 2s. So it's pretty circulated, but that's interesting for some collectors. Somebody might pay a premium just for that bill, even in this condition, which is actually really cool. And lastly, we've got a couple of the 1986 series. These ones here were replaced by the Toonie. So when the Toonie came out in 1996, these bills were discontinued. So they had a 10-year run. I'll flip this one over. The serial number is on the back of this bill. This is CBJ. It's not a fancy serial number, but it's a beautiful bill. I love the bills from this series that have Canada in the background. This one, of course, featuring a robin. And I may as well show you the backs of these other ones. So there is a scene, I think that is people fishing in what looks like icy waters. Not exactly where I'd want to be. And then the back of this one here is a rolling farmland scene. And I flipped these ones over. There is an old country road, dirt road there, Big Sky Country. And then there are some loggers on the Ottawa River just behind the Parliament buildings. And that's how they transported logs back in the day, not on trucks, but down the river using the water flow. Really cool. We were fortunate enough here to get 4 different issues of the $5 bills. So we've got a couple from the 1954 series. They're both the modified portrait, but we have 2 different signature combinations. We've got Beatty Razminsky and Bowie Razminsky. So if you're a collector looking to get all the different varieties, you'll certainly want to look at the signature combinations. Got a bunch here from the 1979 $5 series. These ones are interesting in that the serial number is on the back of the bill, and the prefix is actually 3 numbers rather than 3 letters. So the 302 or the 303, those would be considered the prefix, and the serial number itself would be starting in the 4th digit. So that's how these ones would work. There's nothing rare or valuable here, but there are some different prefixes that have some meaning. If we look in the guide here, you'll see some bills with a prefix of 31 or 33 are far more valuable than the rest. So essentially, all of the 1979 $5 issues are common, but anything starting with a 3-1 is a replacement note. So they are more valuable. They're less common for sure. And the 3-3 prefix, if you were fortunate enough to find that, you can see they're pretty expensive. Those are test notes. So the Bank of Canada might be testing different security features, technology, printing methods. It could be just different inks, probably different inks, maybe even different paper, but they're test notes. So there'd be something a little bit different about them than the regular note, but probably not discernible to the naked eye. Now we've got a bunch here that are pretty circulated and a bunch that are actually in pretty nice condition that I'll probably want to hold on to and look to see if I have these bills in my collection. I may very well. We got a couple from the 1986 series. I love this series. This top one here is actually in really, really nice condition. I'll be very careful when I pick it up. It's got a kingfisher on the back. That's really cool. There we go. Just tried to get that in focus for you again. Canada in the background. Really beautiful. That one is in really nice condition. This one here is circulated. And then we've got this 2002 series. There's an updated series with a security feature. It has a strip, a holographic type strip across the edge of the bill here. This one doesn't have that. They updated that because these were just perhaps a little bit too easy to be forged. These ones have the serial number on the back again, but in this case, they went back to the 3-letter prefix. And a beautiful scene here of kids playing pond hockey, which is probably a pretty common Canadian theme. Now here's something interesting. Oftentimes when we're looking at rarity, we're looking at just the prefix. So if you had an HNM, that might have a particular value. But in this particular series, which is a little bit different, is that there are certain digit ranges that have different values. If I pull up the guide here, you'll see that HNM, there are a bunch of different lines, and they show serial numbers, say from 2.14 million to 2.16 million, commands a premium. It's $12 in just a VF, whereas the 2.54 to 2.58 is $8 in a VF. This particular note is in the 5.98 million range, which is just common, and in this condition, just worth face value. Now, I just had a look in my own collection, and here is my Thyssen-Crowe $5 bill in the 1986 series. You can see it's got some pretty prominent creases. It's a little bit dirty and not in great shape. And this one that we just had here is going to be a beautiful upgrade in my collection. It is nice and crisp, no creases, pretty much uncirculated. That's pretty awesome. On to the 10s, we've got a couple of $10 bills from the 1954 series. Again, both of them are the modified series. Nothing rare in these. I love these notes here from the 1971 $10 series here. These are just gorgeous. And here is the back of that very industrial scene. That looks like a refinery of some sort. And all of these ones are in beautiful condition. We've got one with a 2-digit prefix of VX, and we've got EDE, ETB. I think this one's also EDE. Beautiful bills. Here we've got a pretty awful looking 1986 here, or sorry, 89. These ones came out a little bit, the 10s a little bit after the 2s and the 5s. This is a Bon and Thyssen, and I don't actually have this one. It's got writing on it. It's terribly circulated, so I might hold on to it anyway until I find a better one. And then we've got this one here, which is the issue of 2001, this $10 bill. And just like the 5s, this is an early version that doesn't have the security stripe that was added later. Now, when you're looking at serial numbers, this is another one where you can't just look at the prefix and you can't just look at the signatures. This is a BEK. And if I check on the front, this is a Knight and Dodge signature combination. And if I look in the Charlton guide, we can see, it's actually going to be up here, there is a BEK that is $50 even in a VF, but that is the Jenkins Dodge. If we look above there, the Knight Dodge BEK is just worth face value in that condition. So unfortunately, this isn't the really valuable one, but you've got to have the guide, I think, to really know what you're looking for. You wouldn't want to pass up a $50 $10 bill if you just thought it was worth face value because it was circulated. So really, really, really you want to check those things out. I neglected to show the backs of these bills. These are just beautiful. There's a mountain scene there. And then on this one, we've got an osprey swooping down and catching a fish in a lake. Just a couple issues of the $20 bills here. We've got the 1991. This features the loon, which you would recognize from our $1 coin. And we have the 2004 series here. And this one features indigenous art from Bill Reed, which you would recognize here from one of our colored commemorative toonies. So some ties to our coinage here on these two banknotes. One of these is going to be an upgrade to my collection. I've got one here. It's got a little bit of a crease in the corner. So I'm going to upgrade with this one right here that is in much better condition. And that's really kind of what you hope to do when you're collecting banknotes. If you can get them for face value at the bank, or in this case from a friend who had been collecting them, and you already have one, you don't need to keep more than you need, but you can certainly upgrade the ones that you have and maybe pass some on to other collectors. So there you have it. I've got some of the keepers that will upgrade in my collection, and some of the uncirculated bills. I've put them in little bill holders here just to preserve them so I don't get any nicks or dents or creases on them. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at some colorful bills here from Canada. We've got all these bills from the 50s, from the 70s and 80s, the 90s and 2000s. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, Cadroll Hunter, please go ahead and do that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again next time. The sponsors of today's video are Lighthouse Canada and the Charlton Press. Lighthouse Canada is the leading supplier of high-quality numismatic supplies in Canada, and the Charlton Press is the leading publisher of coin and paper money catalogs and price guides for Canadian collectors. Go check out their online stores today and use the exclusive discount code CRH20 for 20% off all your purchases.